Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guests today are a couple of my favorite people in comics today, if only because of their weird, dark sense of humor that somehow allows them to still, not be morose, thinking the world is about to end people in real life. Bryce Ingman and Mark Russell. How's it going, guys?
No, good.
Going well. Good to be
Bryce
with
is shaking his head at me. Is it because you have become that morose person in real life, or because I nailed it?
it depends on the day. It depends on the day.
That's
There are
fair.
days when I feel but there's always glorious, joyful things about life, and can't ignore those even in the face of tough times.
Well, I mean, I was just commenting that between the two of you had three books come out this week. Mark had the AWA Protopia Aggie. You had Bryce had the second issue of Death Dog, and then Mark had the Mad Cave TerrorByte. Um, that was very, very heavy on the terror side. And in them you explored both well, I mean the capitalism and technology that you often explore, but particularly in Death Dog and Aggie, um I don't want to say you don't explore this as well because it's hiding in the other ones. Sometimes not hiding, but you really, I mean, I just reread Death Dog, and like particularly the end second. Why hat, potato. Just like,
Love that. I love that. That was the dog's word. Potato.
yes, see, my dog is named Potato, so I probably love that even more than you do. But maybe not. Maybe you had a childhood dog named Potato. I don't want to take that away from you, Mark.
Well, that's Bryce's.
Don't fight over potato, guys.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, and Mark had the AI that actually made the world better by forcing people to look at the humanity of the world and the nuance, the how nice things happen in between the lines, I guess.
Yeah,
Certainly offline.
I tasked myself with what I thought was sort of like an impossible writing task. Was like to make a positive story about AI because I've been wallowing in like all of the sort of the tech nightmare stories that I've been writing with like Finishing Point and TerrorBytes. But I thought, part of the mission of the Protopian series that I'm writing these comics for is to give a somewhat hopeful view of the future. And I thought maybe this would be the one way that AI could actually help us. It'd be like if it was like an algorithmic reality that forced us to experience each other's worlds and like was trained not on the data that we put online or in social media, but on watching our actual lives and reminding us that we're human beings away from the computer.
It worked. It worked. As did Mark and his Bryce and his puppy dogs. Tell me about how Death Dog came about, because that's just such a weird and cool concept.
It's funny that I just recently heard Mark say this about Aggie, that it was like he kind of gave himself a challenge, and it was the same thing with Death Dog. I as we as our human society toys with fascism again, global fascism. The thing that
That's the nice way of putting it.
yeah, yeah, no,
Toys with.
yeah. Um, you know, since the last time we really toyed with it in the 30s and 40s. Um, what scares me the most about it is how technology can make it so much worse, is making it so much worse.
Is making it so much worse.
And for a long time, I've found these robotic dogs to be terrifying. Um, the concept of this wonderful creature, a dog, that is the other creature on Earth that's probably the most loyal to human beings, being reimagined as something to control us, kill us, hurt us. Um, it's upsetting to me on multiple levels. And so then I said to myself, well, can you think of a way to make a robot dog in that kind of a world that is a hero? And so that was the writing challenge that I gave myself, and hopefully I was successful because I wanted to show that it's the soul of a dog that matters, not the the
Jaw.
physical body or the jaw. Yeah, the jaw power.
Um, yeah. Yeah, no, and this is why I've liked your work, both of your work, for as long as I've known you, is you are in no ways unaware of the existential abyss in front of us, um, but still manage to both laugh at it and find hope, I guess. Um, and we should probably quickly describe your local TerrorBytes, though I almost want to turn off my headphones while you do it, Mark, because man, did you fuck with me on that one.
Well, the terabytes, for those who don't know, is an ongoing series. I think there's going to be like 18 or some issues of this with the framing story, sort of like Tales from the Crypt, but instead of a crypt keeper, the framing story in mine is these androids that land on Earth and find it completely depopulated, no people around, and so they sort of task themselves with figuring out what happened to the humans that they were expecting to find on Earth. And the main story of each issue kind of like gives you a little more clue of what happened to why the human race isn't around anymore. And in this particular story, the main story, like they come upon like the strange windowless building that's covered with moss and vines and stuff, and they download what they can retrieve, what is apparently like a diary entry from this building, which turns out is a prison. And they get the story of this guy who is like imprisoned in this automated prison, where you are sentenced to go higher up in the building, depending on how long your sentence is. The longer your sentence is, the higher you go up, and also the worse the prison is. And it's completely automated. There are no guards. There's no one you can really appeal to talk, or a judge or a warden or anyone you can talk to make a complaint or ask to see a lawyer. You can ask to see a lawyer through your digital interface that you have in your cell, but only if you have enough money to actually call the lawyer. So it's sort of a catch-22. It's like, how do I earn the money to call a lawyer when I need the lawyer to get money to put in my funds? And
Well, and you also need to have the money to buy your food and whatnot. Like you're
and if you
paying for
don't
all the
have the
stuff in your
money,
prison.
right, to pay for your imprisonment, they just you pay for it with more time. So most
Right.
people in this prison end up like not serving down their sentences, but just having more time added to them. And so it's kind of the hellish nature of technological apathy, or the sort of apathy that we can create by automating technology to deal with things that used to take human effort, and about how many people will fall through the cracks when we completely implement a digital sort of AI driven society. In this case, the
Yeah.
main character didn't even commit a crime. He, or at least is unaware of what the crime.
Right. Unaware. It has a
Like,
very Joseph K. the trial
yeah,
thing
he is
going where it's just
like a
like
21st century Joseph K, where he's trying to figure out the whole
right.
time what he was even convicted of, and they
Right.
won't even tell him.
So actually, as I'm seeing, I mean, we just brought up the trial reference. When I was reading your Death Dogs, I was thinking of both Fahrenheit 451 and Snow Crash. Um, so you guys are both clearly well read, both in a literary sense, but also like you're so on top of, oh my God, again, existential abyss. I'm like right now, I'm just curious, like, what do you read? What do you watch? What do you talk about? And this is the right time to ask because I know that like half the time when you talk about it, you're talking about it with each other. So I'm just gonna sit back and like,
Well, lately we spend a lot of our time talking about Plurbius on Apple TV. That's every week. Mark and I are like, "Oh, what do you think of the latest Plurbius?" And you know, I
Yeah, and
love that.
what do you think is going on with the world? Like, what do you think the nature of this is? I don't know if you haven't seen it, I highly
I
recommend it.
haven't yet.
It's
It's on
yeah,
my list.
it's a very engrossing TV show, and I think a big part of it is that the mystery is one that we haven't really seen before on TV, and yet it's not really clear what it is. It does a good job of sort of revealing itself slowly, so you're trying to figure out exactly what is going on, but it does extremely well.
Yeah, and it's one of those shows that which are always my favorite kinds of shows or books or anything that there's a lot to chew on, and the next day after I watch it, it's still kind of in my head. I'm still kind of replaying scenes, thinking about themes, thinking about, like Mark said, how this world, without giving away what the premise of the show is, how this world is different from ours.
And we all sit silently.
But it's fantastic. I mean, I couldn't recommend it more.
Um, what about the non-entertainment stuff? Are you guys are you do you allow yourself to be wired in
I've
or
been reading a lot of
you pick it up through osmosis?
I've been
What?
reading Byung-Chul Han, who's a Korean philosopher who writes these short books and like the Burnout Society and the Death of Eros, all of which seem to boil down to the gig economy and social media are destroying us as a species, or at least leaving us completely without any sense of solidarity of other human beings and viewing each other as competitors, and making it increasingly impossible to feel anything that previous generations would have identified as love.
Uh,
But oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just made me think about something that's been in my head the last 24 hours. I was reading about, and it ties into the gig economy. I was reading about how in one of the Home Depots in the Los Angeles area, the Home Depot has started deploying sonic weapons against the migrant workers, the lowest of our gig economy workers, to drive them away from the Home Depot parking lots.
And ironically, that's the only reason anyone goes to Home Depot is to get to do projects they're going to eventually hire these guys to do anyway.
Yes. Like they have had for so long a symbiotic relationship, right? The Home Depot and the gig workers, as sad as that kind of economy is, they were benefiting each other on some level. And now, because of ICE and because Home Depot has decided that they would rather stand up to the migrant workers than the government, they're deploying sonic weapons against them, which I don't know how that's legal. It's probably not, but nothing's legal anymore, I guess.
I mean,
But
we are
the
in an
definition,
era where being illegal is hard if it benefits dear leader.
yes.
Well, and it's utterly cynical too, because they know full well that anybody buying, like this much material at Home Depot is going to be hiring these guys. So it's just sort of like, well, as long as it's not on our territory, or it's like we don't care if we hurt the people that are like making our business model possible, as long as it's giving us the appearance of being hostile towards it. It's like buying cocaine, but then like voting for big jail sentences for your drug dealer.
Right.
But
Uh,
when you said soulless, like, yeah, that's as soulless as it can get. This
yeah.
corporation who's been, benefiting from these people for decades now, turning, this, what I was talking about earlier, this new technology, turning it against those same people. It's so messed up, so backwards, so soulless.
I am pleased that there seem to be um more people pushing back. I read that just this morning that both as ICE moves into Columbus, um, both the mayor and the chief of police have put out statements saying that city resources will not be used, and oh, by the way, here are all of your rights,
Yeah.
which of course immediately had them pegged as un-American traitors by Stephen Miller and Elon Musk.
It's
So
don't tell
funny to
anyone their
hear it from
rights.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, don't tell people their
Right.
rights. That's the most
Well,
evil
I
thing to do.
mean,
Well, it
you
gives them the
know,
illusion that they actually have them, and that's just cruel.
it's like they decided that it would be a good idea to go after a senator, war veteran, astronaut
Yeah,
who who again just told people their rights.
yeah, yeah. It's madness.
Um, yeah,
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 it's beyond parody, and I'm glad that there are so many people pushing back. In fact, most people seem to be pushing back. But at the same time, it seems like an unfathomable nightmare to me that even like 30 to 40% of the people in the country would even entertain the idea of like deporting people to countries they've never been into, and people who aren't even criminals, people who are just like picking their tomatoes, people who are
but
framing houses, and
but
and also the like treating people who are exercising the First Amendment rights to protest as like terror groups.
right.
To me, it's just like if you told me we would have been here this quickly like 10 years ago, I would not have believed you. And yet it seems like there every I have yet to sort of I mean it seems almost impossible to underestimate how far we've fallen as a republic.
But honestly, I think that that was one of the powers of Aggie is that um that guy who online is supporting all of this nonsense doesn't support it when it's their neighbor. Or
Yeah, I
and
feel like
yes,
this is maybe the benefit of the algorithm is a sort of like forced
right.
empathy. If it
It,
were to
it
do that,
it's incredibly frustrating that there's such a cognitive disconnect for people between this mythical terrorist illegal alien and the guys in the Home Depot parking lot that helped build their kitchen floor,
Yeah.
right? Um, but it does seem that when you can cross that, I mean, hell, look at Marjorie fucking Taylor Greene.
Hmm. Yeah.
Has suddenly realized, oh, wait a minute, these aren't like you said it was going to be bad people.
Yeah.
yeah,
These aren't all bad people.
Yeah. And yeah,
there
and
will
often
be a
that
certain
takes.
percentage of people who actually mind being lied to, but it seems like a lot of them not only don't mind being lied to, they expect to be lied to, or or they don't never believed it themselves. They were just hoping you would buy into the lie, and therefore not create any problems for them as they implement fascism by degree.
Yeah.
I mean, there
I,
are undocumented Americans who I have spoken to who believed that lie and who supported Trump in the
yeah.
last election because they were like, well, he's not coming after me. I'm not a bad person. I'm just here
Right.
working and doing my thing. And
I'm paying taxes.
yep, I'm paying taxes. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not getting arrested. And they believed it, which is even sadder to me that, the people that are getting kicked out of the country, some of them believe that he was only going to target criminals and the worst people.
Um, Pew Research put out their uh annual like these were our cool charts from the year.
Cool
And
charts.
therefore there was one making the rounds that I don't think quite says what most of the people reposting it were thinking it would say or think it's saying, but it was essentially like the percentage of people who get their news from various places based on education level. And like highest educated is like Atlantic and then New York, very much the way you would somewhat expect it to be. Except that if you also look and go, oh, wait a minute, which ones cost the most versus which ones cost the least, it also lines up pretty well. And when you dig into the methodology, you discover they didn't ask income. They only asked education level. I mean, they asked a bunch of other stuff, but they didn't have an income question, which means the education level is kind of a proxy. But that's a whole different thing. It was when I was looking at the study that I found something really, really interesting, which is that Democrats have like 8 to 12 news sources that more than 50% of them trust. Republicans have one. The only news source that more than 50% of Republicans trust is Fox News. So
Yeah.
even when it comes to all of their other news sources, most of them don't trust them. They just
Yeah.
don't trust ABC anymore or
Well, and the irony is that
CNN
this
anymore.
right this focus on Fox News started like during the Iraq War because they were the
Right.
only news source that was reporting positive things about the war. Like the war is going well. This was like indeed justified. Saddam Hussein has all these weapons of mass destruction. And when it came out, towards the end, that the war, in fact, was not going well, that Saddam Hussein had no weapons of mass destruction, it didn't. You would think, you would have imagined that moment that Fox News's model would have been destroyed, that people would have abandoned them en masse, but the opposite happened. They consolidated around Fox News, and I think that's maybe the moment at which our republic died, when conservative media and Fox News and also the podcasts that sort of came up later, they all kind of realized that not only do these people not care if you lie to them, they want you to lie to them, and they will only look to you for reality, and anything else that like is not confirmation bias, they will just ignore or will sort of believe as part of this grand conspiracy against their worldview. They will all choose their worldview over facts. They'll all choose what they would prefer to believe over over their own lying eyes. And I think
Like
that was
how they view what they
right.
view as a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really about like information or the truth or finding reality. It's more about like college football. It's more like, well, this is my team, and as long as they win, I don't care if we have to lie to do. It doesn't matter which tactics you have to do to win. The important thing is that our team wins.
Sounds disturbingly accurate. Though the part that struck me was how little they trust anybody,
Yeah. Well, it's
even
because
on their side.
most people
You,
are
you,
not in that worldview. Most people are not
right,
in not in that tunnel, not in that bubble. So if you're not confirming the bias, then you're puncturing it, and that's like
right.
that like
And that's
they
scary.
yeah they built their entire identity around this. So it's like somebody walking up to you and saying your God is a lie.
Right.
Even though
Yeah,
it
no,
might be
actually,
true,
as I'm
you don't want
starting
to
to
live with
do,
that
as
knowledge.
I'm starting, as I'm starting to do the next degree math in my head, essentially what we're saying is if they trust Alex Jones, they might not trust Alex. Well, no, Joe Rogan and Alex Jones often agree because they're buddies. But if they trust Alex Jones, they might not trust Ben Shapiro, and therefore their numbers aren't going to cross over. And the only
Well,
place that
it
they're
creates
going to cross over
like a
is
reign of terror effect, right? Where it's
right,
like you believe that everybody outside the bubble is like lying to you or is trying to destroy your faith or whatnot.
but
Then
they
what's
only feel
left
like
is like
Fox
a
News
race
is their
to the
bubble,
center of the
their
bubble.
their bigger bubble.
Yeah,
Everything else is
exactly.
a smaller
It,
bubble.
it's like
There's only one big bubble.
the people who are more credible than within the bubble are not the moderates. The people who are more
Right,
credible within the bubble are the people who are even more extreme because you feel like
right,
they're taking you even further into safety to
right.
your belief system. It's like once you
I
cut
can
yourself
see
off,
Mark writing right now.
once you cut yourself off, it's like a tug of war. And once you snap that rope so that you don't have to ever listen or can you even think about what the people on the other side of the rope are saying, then everybody on your side of the rope immediately lurches, you know, 10 feet to the right.
And you believe that it's the majority
Yeah,
somehow.
because it is within your bubble.
And this is why it's hard for some of those people to see like what's happening with ICE and similar issues where people's rights are being trampled that perhaps they would normally care about, is that they're not interacting with those people.
No.
When they do, they kind of get slapped in the face with reality. But it's easy for people in a lot of parts of this country to just stay away from people that are in any way different from them.
Right.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, social media has allowed us to sort of silo ourselves in a way that wasn't really possible before. And so not only it used to be, when everybody watched CBS News or NBC News or whatever, it was like you were playing cards. As there were conservatives, there were liberals, but they were all playing with the same deck of cards. You could play poker with those people because you all were playing from the same deck of facts. Now it's like playing poker against somebody who's got their own deck of old maid cards. It's like not only do they have quote unquote alternate facts, but a lot of times they don't even see the important issues worth talking about as being the same things as you do. They'll bring up things that are, that you've never even heard of because within the bubble they have a completely different sort of news diet.
That world that thinking about All in the Family in light of Rob Reiner's murder, that world that existed where that was one of the most popular pieces of media, and it was about an America where people interacted with people who had opposite opinions, worked through them, talked about them, didn't necessarily agree with each other at the end of the day, but still cared about each other and
Well,
weren't
I
seeking to isolate.
I mean, it's been a long time since I watched any All in the Family, but I think one of the parts that's missing is talk to each other because
Yes,
even when we're around people who might be different from us, more and more subjects are just considered absolutely taboo. I mean, the number of times where it's like, oh, I don't want to talk politics. I'm like, I wasn't talking politics. I was talking healthcare.
talking
I was
life.
talking healthcare because my
Yeah,
wife's in the hospital.
so true, so true.
Not
But yeah, it's
that
like when I
wasn't supposed
encounter,
to be political.
yeah, most of my family like, on my mom's side are, they're deep red sort of MAGA conservatives, and on the rare occasions I encounter them in the wild, they're totally polite. They're nice to me. We still interact as family, and but they think anybody with my beliefs is probably secretly a terrorist. But it's just
Right.
because when you
Except for
don't have
you.
a daily interaction with people who disagree with you, your imagination takes over, and it's also like reinforced.
Everybody with your beliefs are terrorists and you'll come around one day
Yeah,
is probably what they're thinking.
Hoping, praying.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, one day he'll get tired of that big city and he'll come back here and everything. That
one thing
that's
that's actually
actually
different about MAGA though than any other sort of political movement I've ever experienced before in my life is that how much it sort of intertwines itself with the personality of the person who holds those beliefs. Like I've never experienced somebody unless they were like a campaign worker or something wearing like a hat or a sweater or where of like the candidate they had voted for in the election and it's like I could go all day without talking politics. In fact, I prefer not to. I prefer to have a day just talking about pop culture or sports or something. But these family members of mine who are in the MAGA right can't go like 5 minutes without like talking about illegal aliens or Muslims or something something they got off of Fox News. It's all the MAGA ecosystem is like taking over their entire personality, and it's almost like witnessing a zombie takeover.
Very much so. It's hard to even imagine somebody like running around wearing a Joe Biden hat.
Yeah,
right.
Like that was
Did
their
they make
identity.
Joe Biden hats? I mean, I do remember the Waltz hat, but only because they put out the camo one as the joke.
I mean, I can understand wearing one if you're at an event or it's
Right.
like the election day, but yeah, you're not going to wear them. Yeah, to me, it's like the fact that it's like so pervasive in everyday life, even when there's no election happening, says that like something that this fuels something in their personality. That this is like replaced something. This has filled a hole where something else needed to be. That there
Yeah, the
needed to be
only
some sort
the
of
only
like
Joe Biden attire I saw, over his presidency were MAGA people wearing like insulting Joe Biden like attire, which
Right.
is always just
yeah,
like
they're
you said,
mocking
like
a
why
counter
is
movement
this
that doesn't really exist.
yeah, why is
Uh,
this like how you dress? Why is this your identity?
Yeah. And I think part of it is that it's incredibly easy. You don't have to think about it. It's the same reason why the number one country star in America right now is like an AI, thing. It's like
Yeah.
more about the lifestyle and more about this is like reinforcing my identity than it is that like I actually enjoy this or I actually believe this. It's more just like this gives me the permission to exist. And I think it comes much more out of like an inferiority complex and like a deep sense of conviction.
Like identity comfort food.
Yeah, it's like reassure
Something
me that I'm a good person, that I'm doing the right thing, and and then I'll you can push my mother down the stairs if you want to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
so something that popped into my head as I was like half awake listening to a podcast yesterday and heard somebody describing a small town area, a place of less than 30,000 people. I'm like, that's not a small town area. Small town areas that I know are like less than 10,000, often less than 5,000. Um, and like I don't have the number of people who live in towns of less than 5,000 because I haven't found that. But as you were talking, I did 76% of all towns in the United States, incorporated areas, have fewer than 5,000 people. So I wonder if we sometimes like really lose track of the fact that it's not just a internet silo, but by not being willing to have conversations face to face, it's becoming more and more of a physical silo.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Which,
less and less
which,
like,
which is the way things used to be, right? Before it was easy to get around, before we had mass communication. Yeah, people were siloed like that.
mhm,
But we didn't have the destructive side of mass communication, the
right.
internet, weapons of mass destruction.
Hey, we're not using those at home
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think one of the really insidious things about the modern digital media age is that, before, when, the Hearst newspaper or, the official state news would tell you something, you could choose to not believe it, or you could say, well, that's clearly a lie. And, or your friends and your family would act as like sort of a bulwark against that, or your union or whatever. So, well, that's not actually what's happening. Here's what's happening. But what social media has allowed people to do is to pretend to be your friends and family. So
right.
some anonymous user in Belarus, or some like Russian bot,
User.
uh,
Yeah, I was about to say bot in Belarus.
Yeah,
yeah,
be a bot.
can convince you that they're somebody you go to church with, or that you're somebody you might go to church with, or somebody you might live down your street, and convince you of something that
Well,
no rational
let's be
person would
real.
ever
They
like
have
do.
all of our data now. They can say that there's somebody who lives down your street.
At
And
one
as long
point,
as you don't actually go down and ask that person down your street, hey, you know that thing you were saying to me online yesterday? You'll never know that it wasn't that person down the street.
yeah, back when Facebook cared about such things, they did like a survey to find out, like what, which sort of community pages were run by bad faith overseas actors and shut them down. And they found like the top 10 sort of like evangelical Christian sites on Facebook were all run out of Russia. They were all basically like
Well, I
Kremlin
mean,
plants, because this is,
everybody knows that Russia is a hotbed of Christian love and community.
well, this is what every bad faith actor understands. And this is not new either. This goes back to my childhood when I grew up in a church like that, where like
Right,
every con man who came through town came to your church because they knew that, like, if you're in that church, you automatically have a level of trust with people. People trust you just by
right,
virtue of you being there and looking like them. And so they're willing to like invest in your get rich quick scheme, or to like give you their money for something because you've established immediate trust with them on the deepest level possible. And that's exactly what, bad faith actors like con men, like Donald Trump, like Vladimir Putin, realize that if you can just show up at people's churches, or convince the evangelical leaders to like co-sign you, or create a page that convinces them that you're on their side, that they automatically give you trust, and then you can tell them whatever you want about, drinking their own urine to cure COVID, or about how the Democrats control the weather. You can tell them anything you want, and they'll believe something outlandish told to them by somebody they imagine is in their community than they would, if you
right.
somebody who's
That
not in their community warning them,
even in a
"Come on,
case,
man."
even in a case where you might see somebody in your community who's an evangelical, a priest or a pastor or whatever, being shot with non-lethal rounds in the head by ICE, and still be like, no, 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 that's not my kind of Christian.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
okay to
bad
shoot.
apple.
that's the wrong kind of Christian.
Yeah, that guy who
Um,
was standing there yelling at the ICE,
yeah.
praying for the ICE.
But actually, I'm gonna bring this back to Aggie and Death Dog because I think part of the power and hopefulness of both Aggie and Death Dog is showing how important trust at an individual level can be. So how does one balance, a world that collectively can be very untrustable with finding a way because if we go around distrust is what you get in TerrorBytes, rather than everybody leaving jail, everybody else decided, oh, I'm going to have 5 years knocked off my sentence. Won't get me out, which means that I'm going to have to go back upstairs because I don't work down my sentence here. I only work up my sentence here. But I would rather do that than trust this guy and walk out the front door.
Well, yeah, the reason why they're able to like operate a prison without any guards is they make it utterly impossible for the prisoners to trust each other.
Right.
So the prisoners then become their own guards, which I think is sort of the way, the gig economy works. It's like there's no such thing as strikes or solidarity. There's only viewing your fellow workers as competitors, and so it makes it impossible for you to ever like sort of like get together with them to like to work towards a better system.
So how do we like flip that? Because it seems like we have this trust in big monolithic untrustable things and lack of trust with all of the individuals because the big monolithic things have told us, oh, you can't trust them.
Well, frankly, I think you, we still can turn back the clock on this, but I think it needs to be done soon. I think it needs to be done soon and by people who still remember what things were like before. Because once you have people coming into adulthood thinking this is just the way things are, it becomes infinitely harder to sort of reclaim the sort of the lost connections that we had because they don't know any better. They don't understand that things could be different.
That's why you
Well, and
see so many, such a large percentage of the protests in the last year being carried out by people who are older than us, people in
yeah,
their 60s and 70s who remember
A functioning democracy.
the function and remember fighting for things and achieving things in a democracy, which for most of our life we have not experienced. We've experienced,
well,
a slowly creeping loss of rights and freedom.
and as much as that's true for us, that's even more true for the next generation. I know, Bryce, you work at a middle school. I
Yeah.
work in a high school. Um, it's gonna feel weird that I say this, but when Wyatt at the end was talking about how he'd never had anybody worth appreciating before, not only was I thinking about that, but also what popped into my head, and this is for you, Nate, 6'7", which like the more I think about it, the more I've read about it, the more I've talked to kids about it. The reason that's a thing is because it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That
And it
they
belongs
have
to them.
it belongs to them, and they've also like it's their way of just like our world is absurd. It always has been.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I'm going to throw something out because you guys are both nerds. What's the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything? Bryce is smiling.
I don't have that answer.
Yeah.
Neither one of you have read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Oh, 42.
42. What's 6 times 7?
42.
42. You,
God.
know, you gotta,
Kids
you
might
gotta,
be onto something
Yeah.
here.
yeah.
This is all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
That's funny.
um, so Bryce, talk to me about creating Wyatt and creating this boy that lives in this world that has never really cared for him, but
Yeah.
he's
Well,
still not jaded.
No, it's easy to, I think, when you're that young, I think it's
Oh,
hard.
he's not young. He's 13. He told me that.
Yes, he doesn't feel he's young, but
Everybody thinks I look like a kid, even though I'm 13.
yeah, yeah, you're right. And that's purposeful, right? Because he lives in a world where childhood is kind of ignored, which, um, based on my experience working in a middle school and in this modern world, there is a lot of that. A lot of the adult
Well,
world just kind of washing its hands of responsibility for the current generation. Um,
they
both,
just need to go to work.
yes, and
They need to
I
contribute to
feel like
society,
that's
Bryce.
that's where we're headed, if we don't
Enough with
get
those
smart.
socialist child labor laws.
Right. As long as they're old enough to follow directions, then they have value, right? And as labor. And so Wyatt is a representation of that trend and, a cautionary, example. Um, and you pointed out sort of the key line in the whole book, which is that he doesn't feel like he's ever had anyone who really had his back or cared about him, including his family, as is illustrated in the story. And this robot dog is literally the first entity that is willing to go to bat for him and cares about him. And that's kind of the whole key to their relationship and the story. And what I'm trying to say is we need to prevent the Wyatts of the world from being in that position in
Absolutely.
whatever ways we can, and take care of these kids because they're our future. I mean, it's such a cliche to say things like this. Oh, the children are our future, but I mean, they are. And if we have any hope for this planet,
Well,
that
also we've got the
generation has to be something
yeah,
better than what's coming
but
forward.
also we've got the gerontocracy going. The boomers essentially decided not to get into politics. Um,
Yeah,
they are literally our future, probably sooner rather than later, because whether the gerontocracy will give up, like, do they have more than a decade left before their hearts just give out?
right. Very true. And the voices, you're right. And the voices that are the most powerful are not voices of people like in their 50s or 60s. The voices
No.
are
Well,
people in their
because
30s and
I,
20s that are coming up in politics.
well, but I mean, and part of that is because uh, it was a time where there was kind of a mentorship program in in politics where like people would do a job and then move up to the next job and they'd help the people who worked under them get their job and whatnot. And again, like the idea that Congress has gotten this old means that there are two whole generations
Haven't had their voice yet.
Yeah, I think
that
there's
like
this is a
didn't
broader
bother
thing
to ever
too.
really get the
I
what?
think it's the broader this is the broader symptom too, where it's like once you started like making it harder to retire, once you started getting rid of the good middle class jobs, the people who had those stayed. They put their claws in, they stayed in them, and
Right.
so you didn't see the turnover from generation to generation that you had.
Hmm.
Like once the boomers got into these jobs and to a large degree, started destroying them. It's like they didn't want to leave, and the people who were coming up, the Gen X's and the people after, there weren't the avenues of social mobility. There weren't the middle class jobs available in the same way there were for boomers. And I think what you see like a lot of it is like the cynicism of just realizing there's no hope for you.
Right.
There's no opportunity, so you check out. And I feel
Well, and
that's why
I
there's
mean,
why there's such a gerontocracy, and why so many other subsequent generations have just sort of checked out of politics, or have gone, to extremism, because the old methods of social mobility and like political engagement have kind of been consumed and discarded by the boomer generation.
right.
Purposefully.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you were saying this, I'm sitting there going, oh, wait a minute. So where the boomer generation started holding their jobs
Yeah.
and where it
Find me a
became hard.
professor with tenure who's like under the age of 60. It's almost
Right,
impossible.
right. And where it started becoming hard for the next generation was that point. We're going to call it the Reagan years, um, where we continued to have continual growth, except that the growth was only in terms of profits for the rich. So
Yes.
we didn't continue expansion. We didn't have a need for more workers. We just had more. It's almost like somebody could have predicted this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that, my sort of grand theory is that like after World War II, when the United States was not only, building its own service economy, but it was rebuilding Europe and much of Asia, American corporations were rebuilding the world, and were like really kind of the only industrial power left in the game. It was very easy to like create a good life for IBM employees, for
Mhm.
Ford employees, and also to be incredibly profitable as a corporation. And then in the like 70s and 80s,
Well,
when
but
the
the other
Japanese,
thing that's important to remember is they weren't incredibly profitable by today's standards.
well, they weren't. I mean, they were incredibly profitable, but it wasn't just like digital money. Like you weren't creating
Right.
iPod numbers like on a spreadsheet that no one could ever hope to spend, because it was an actual economy, it was a physical economy, not like a
Yes.
digital monetary financial
They
economy.
they were consistently growing by like 10 to 12%, not by 70% per
But I
year.
think what happened was like when Japanese and German like industry rebuilt in the 70s and were ready to compete with the United States on an internet on a global scale, as were the economies of Western Europe, that there it was no longer such an easy game for American corporations. And given the choice between, well, what do we sacrifice? Do we sacrifice like the ever increasing American standard of living of the labor force, or do we sacrifice the profitability of our corporations? The nation collectively, or at least through our political leadership, decided to preserve the corporate profitability over the rising standard of living, which is why in
Right.
the 80s you started getting these massive tax breaks. You started seeing more and more capital being dumped into financial like private equity type things. In far much less capital being dumped into things like Social Security and the social safety net and unions and whatnot. The things that's the
Right.
end of improving people's lives. But I think
Right.
that was kind of the beginning of the end for the American dream, for the idea that we could all be middle class, was that crisis in the 80s where suddenly America was not the only game in town and we were going to have to compete with foreign
I
corporations.
guess my only argument would be that I think that the fact that there was a crisis, and I don't know if I want to think of it as a full-blown crisis. I'd have to go look at my economic history a little bit
Well, I
more.
think that what happened was that they realized that American corporations like American car makers like Ford and Chevy weren't selling in Japan, they weren't selling in Europe anymore.
Right.
Big gas hogs
But
that nobody wanted to drive. Nobody even here wanted to really drive them. So instead of like American corporations becoming more competitive or learning, they just start getting massive tax breaks from
right, that's
government.
my point. That's why I was given the big air quotes on the crisis. I don't know that it was as much of a crisis as much as there were certain people that wanted to go there anyway, and when they saw even the smallest bump in the road, they saw an opportunity of go, "Hey, this is the way to do it.
But there wasn't
Please
that
don't."
impetus for all these tax breaks and for like basically severing the social mobility ladders in the 60s and 70s when there was enough money to go around because American corporations and American industry was dominating the world. It was only when they had to get competitive and they were faced with this choice: well, do we actually want to make better products and compete, or do we want to just stay rich? They chose just to stay rich, and the government facilitated that.
Well, I mean, the John Birch Society had some impetus. They just
Well,
didn't get
the John Birch
traction.
Society and these right wing movements, they helped in the sense
Goldwater,
that they convinced average people, the people working, that this was in
right,
their interest, even though clearly it was not. Even though
right,
clearly they're
right.
stripping their own futures, their own sort of economic
Yeah,
being, and convince them, well, we got to do this to to fight communism, or we got to do this
yeah.
to make the world
Yeah. I mean,
for
we're mostly parsing hairs here. I think we're agreeing.
but I think that's kind of the beginning of the end of the
Oh
the
yeah.
dream. The idea that like while everything was good and you could have it all, the corporations were okay with letting American labor standard of living continually rise and paying people well and like funding, you know, uh, golf clubs for their employees. And then the moment like they no longer had the game in themselves, they had to compete with other corporations. Instead of raising their game to be competitive, they just said, "Well, we're just going to not spend money on you anymore." And that was kind of the end of we never really had a good political sort of counter punch to that. It's like in a lot of ways, I think the Reagan '80s were a sort of a revision, a like a counterattack
Progression.
against the New Deal, against
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That was certainly Great Society and definitely New Deal. It's like
we
how
never
much.
really had the counter punch of like, well,
Right.
here's the progressive era is back, or we're
Right.
reinstating
Well,
New Deal social safety net.
the only punch was the civil rights movement, right? And that is the closest, at the end of the civil rights movement is the closest we got to the American dream being
Right.
available to the largest amount of people. I mean, prior to the mid 60s, the American dream was only available to
But
white
but
men,
also
essentially.
but also a part of the end because like Brown v. Board of Education led to way more private schools because
No.
they could still keep and once you
Which is
had
just
private
another way of
schools, you
severing the
wanted
rungs of the ladder of
public.
mobility because by sending state funding to private schools, it's like you're tilting the board even further into favor of the already rich.
Yep. Yep.
And and I think the thing that when I was younger that I was blissfully ignorant toward was this idea that
Man,
when you
doesn't
have
ignorance rock?
yeah, it feels good. Look at how popular it is these days. But this feeling that when we make progress, we've made progress. And
Right.
there's not these forces that are constantly trying to destroy that progress and push back on that progress. I mean, you look at this meager progress we made in the United States with healthcare, with Obamacare or the ACA or whatever you want to call it. And every second since that tiny little bit of progress was eked out, there have been these forces just like, we got to stop that. We got to get rid of it. We have to go back. We have to stop
More
it.
people need to die and they need to pay more money
Yes.
for it, damn it.
Yes. And they kind of are getting there, right? Like they're kind of
Kind
finding a
of.
way to push that back and destroy
Kind
that. And it's not a great thing about humanity that that there's always going to be a certain section of humanity that's just like, fuck progress. I don't like the way things are because they're not as good for me when we have progress. So no progress.
I mean, in some ways it was more honest when it was kings.
Yeah. Because they're like, it's all about me. And if I give you something
Right.
because I choose to.
Right. Um, yeah. I'm rereading 100 Bullets right now, so I'm doing a little bit of that with the global criminal cartels via Brian Azzarello and Eduardo
Yeah.
Russo. um, mm, we talk about such fun things, don't we?
When we used to come on and talk about My Bad, there were a lot more laughs.
There were. Actually, I had to ask you. I meant to ask you. Did you either of you read The Pedestrian?
No.
Okay,
No,
the Pedestrian is a superhero-ish comic from Magma that I think won a Ringo. Um, I highly
I've heard of
recommend
it.
it.
I'm familiar with I know it's
But
good.
like,
I haven't read it.
yeah, but like the superhero will like stop for the the don't walk sign and then speed walk across the street when it says walk. And it made me think very much if you're twice the strength of a normal man.
The two men, yes. Rush Hour.
um, any more My Bad on the horizon? I mean, I feel like there's more stories to tell. There could
Oh,
be anyway.
we definitely have more stories to tell, and occasionally we talk about trying to get something going. It's not been greenlit by Ahoy.
Right.
We ask every once in a while. Um, but there's a possibility that we could, do some sort of public funding, Kickstart type thing to try to
Right.
get going again. And we've talked a little bit about that from time to time. I
Well,
mean,
Yeah, I love working on my bad. I would love to do more because it's so much easier to write 10 pages than 20 and just half the story. And I think also to have a collaborator, you sort of like got an energy to feed off of, and you have a prompt. It's like if you just sit there and stare at a blank page, not knowing what to write, it's much harder than if somebody else has an idea and okay, well, I can feed into that idea. My tributary can feed into your tributary down the road. It's much easier to write when you have like a scent of something than when you're just staring at a blank page.
well, I can
yeah,
become dogged in terms of plugging the hell out of Kickstarters that I like. So, like, if you go that route,
Very
let me
good.
know.
okay. And
Any
it
Kickstarters
seems
you like now? Any Kickstarters you want to plug?
Uh, I feel, or no, there is one. Um, and see, you got me off my game. I don't have it like immediately up
Yeah,
because I
now
didn't know it was
she's on
going
the
to be
well, while
spot.
plugged.
you're looking for it, I will say that if people enjoy my bad, it seems like Ahoy is still interested in Acid Chimp because they seem to keep wanting little spurts of Acid Chimp. So at least,
Acid Chimp is awesome.
yeah, at least Acid Chimp seems to have a life still beyond my.
Yeah, Acid Chip's the breakout character. He seems to be like the Fonz.
Freak Squeal is the one that I was gonna is it's like manga slash Dungeons and Dragons esque Band-Aid Disney um that Magnetic has translated and is kickstarting
Oh, cool.
and is at 117,000 out of 7,500. So like if you go back it in the next 10 days, you
Yeah,
know that you're just getting it, not
Right.
yeah, that one blew up like gangbusters.
That's
right,
great.
right. Here I'll throw it up on screen so you can since Mark asked the question.
Yeah.
And I just had Mike Kennedy from Magnetic on. He was fun to talk to.
Cool.
They're a little. Let's see. I love how
Oh
many
yeah, look at
different
that.
references I can see right there. Got some Black Sad going on. You got some,
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a hugely successful Kickstarter. Look at that.
yeah,
That's great.
117,000 on 118,000 on a
Yeah.
7,500 goal.
That's fantastic. And then, yeah, very nice job they did with it.
Yeah, but apparently
Oh, that's cool.
it's like a school for um superheroes, but superheroes in more of the Dungeons and Dragons type. So it's like there's a werewolf and there's
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
No,
this big teddy bear type guy.
yeah, the art's really cool. I like the art.
So, and they're actually doing 7 volumes. Like if you go all in, you can get the 7 volumes in like a
Oh, yeah.
trunk,
Yeah. Huh.
which looks pretty awesome. I
Really?
didn't go that far because
Yeah, it looks
I I
that's
did
a real
too
commitment.
I did too many Kickstarters in October and I'm still paying down from there, but I did get 1 volume digitally as a starter because the other thing is Magnetic goes through or distributes is partnered with Oni, so they distribute. So like once it's been funded, I might not be able to get the cool trunk anymore, but
Yeah. You can get the book.
they will wind up in stores.
Neat.
If I love it, I'll be able to go get it.
Right. Sounds like
Um,
a good compromise.
Magnetic, they've done one of my all-time favorite translations. Have either of you read Mr. Invincible?
No.
Okay, Mr. Invincible, his superpower is that he can move between panels.
Oh,
No, that's cool. I like that. It's very meta.
Um, his sidekick 2D can like mess with like he can pick up the car over here where it's small and bring it here and it'll still be small, or he can take the small car here and move it there where it will be huge.
oh wow.
Does he have
Um,
a dog named Gutter?
no, but like that's something to toss out there. There was an old man with Alzheimer's that his word balloons are physical, so he
Oh,
can like hit you with the word balloons.
no, that's
And
interesting.
then there was the one villain could move between pages. So he could like open a door on one side of the page to go into the other side of the page. And his hideout was literally in between the two sides of the page.
Can they only go forward? Can you only go forward on pages or panels, or can they go backward as well?
No, they can do both.
Ah, interesting.
In fact, my favorite one page is Mr. Invincible seeing a kid read his new comic, go, oh, wow, man, I can't wait to read more of this a month from now, climbing all the way down through the panels, getting the comic from a month later, bringing it back up to him. He reads it, but then when you get back down, right before he takes it from the kid takes it out of the mailbox and goes, oh, man, I read this already.
Yeah, that's cool. That's twisty.
Right.
That's an exercise that could be a lot of fun to do. I
Yeah.
imagine.
But so it's holidays, so I don't want to keep you too long. Um, do either of you have any other things on the horizon that you're allowed to talk about, want to plug, etc.?
Mark always does. Go for it,
Yep.
Mark.
All right. I got a few things. I got a war series. I've written a war comic series, which I'm very proud
Oh,
of, with Mad Cave called Dog Tag. Hasn't been announced yet, so you're getting the scoop. But
yay.
a reporter for the Stars and Stripes from like the D-Day invasion till the end of the war, and artwork by PJ Holden, and
Oh,
it just the pages just blow me away every time he's
yeah.
coming out.
I
And
like
then,
PJ Holden.
yeah, no, he's great. And then also Wonder Woman Golden Age, the end of the trilogy for the Superman Space Age,
Oh, when does
Batman
that
Dark
start?
Age. That should come out spring 2026, issue number one.
Okay. Okay. And that's with Mike again.
Yep.
All righty. Bryce, anything cool?
I mean, I wish I could do
No,
some of that, but
another semester in middle school kids.
I'm working. I'm pitching. I got pitches out there. Projects I would love to do. Um, one about like Ozempic type drugs having a minor side effect where like 0.5% of the people who take them turn permanently invisible.
Ooh,
And then how society has to deal with all these invisible people that Ozempic has created. So
that's a little crazy.
yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
out there, I'd love to have greenlit and be working on. We'll see what happens here. And Death
Well,
Dog, if people buy these first two issues and support these, Ahoy definitely wants to do more if there's an
yeah.
audience for it. So
Well, I'll
hoping
keep
to get
plugging
that
them.
call soon if it's coming.
But both through here and through the comic shop that I'm now associated with, Modern Age Comics, Algonquin, Illinois. Um, so, all right, the required final question. To tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love, that not enough people around you have experienced, and you need them to, so that you have more people to talk about it with.
Okay, well, I'm going to play with that question just a little bit because
Sure.
this is not something obscure, and I'm sure I've talked about it before. But my favorite comic remains Saga by Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan, and I feel like before they took the hiatus a few years ago, it was a book everybody talked about and everybody was reading. And now I feel like it's kind of, it's still there, but it's not that thing that everyone is jawing about, and I still love it. I still get
Well,
super.
this is where I need to ask you, Bryce, what do your Monday nights look like? Because every 4 weeks we have a saga book club on 22 panels. You're more than
Oh wow,
invited to come join us.
yeah. Let's do that. I would love to do that. Yeah,
I will add you to the invite.
cool.
I think we're going to be on volume 5 next,
Okay, I could go
maybe
back and
volume
reread
6.
volume 5. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
I've got
volume
volume
6.
12 sitting here waiting to be read, and I'm excited to read it.
Oh,
I'm always whenever there's new
yeah.
saga, I light up. It makes me feel like I felt when I was a kid reading comics, where
I
every
kind of
page.
agree with you though. The hiatus meant that, and I think actually as much as anything, it's because so many other cool things started during the hiatus.
Mhm.
It's less that Saga stopped being cool and more that there became more other comics worth talking about in
Yeah,
that time. I mean, hell, that's when Mark got started.
that's true. And Brian K. Vaughan became a huge fan of Mark, so it's all all connected.
Is he?
But
I could believe that.
oh yeah, yeah, he's reached out to Mark before with praise.
Oh, sweet. How does
Yeah,
that feel?
but yeah, I will.
And
I
that
will love.
reminds me that my new second to last question that I forgot to ask. So it'll be the last question this time after Mark gives me the thing that he
Okay.
loves.
Okay.
My pick is a graphic novel called Elmer by Jerry.
No, you can't do it
Why is that?
because you did it the last time. I
Did
have it
I? Okay,
downstairs.
I'll
Yeah.
pivot to a different animal graphic novel then. I'll go to Leica by Adam. I'm going to screw up his name. What was his name? Adam Abadzan, I want to say. But it's like tells the fictionalized story of the first dog in space uh, in the Soviet Union in 1957, about
I
why they
feel
took
like
that
I've read
dog,
this, but I can't remember.
that dog's life. But
Like
it's just a wonderful graphic novel. It's more about the scientists who are working on that project than it is about the dog. But but great
Nick
graphic novel. It's
Nick Abadzis.
Nick Cabezas, that's it.
Nick
Uh,
Abadzis
so, but yeah, it's
from First Second.
full of humanity and also it's historical fiction, which I always like, and it's like got science in there. But yeah, it's for me, it's like sort of totally my bag. It's totally the sort of comic I would love to read more of.
All right.
First second kicks ass. It's a great
Oh,
company.
they do. Well, and I like them even more now that I mean, they were already doing both young adult and some adult, but
Mhm.
when they created their 23rd Street imprint, which is really this year, you know, they've started doing some. I mean, I finally got to read the first volume of THB because it finally got collected.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
um,
they're great.
Yeah, no, I'm a massive fan of First Second, but you reminded me of the other question that I've been trying to ask more people because it's I mean every one of these qualifies as an answer for me. Um, I'm entering my 5th year of doing this, and I feel like my life has become surreal. Like the life that I live, the people that I talk to, the people that I text with, the people that I hang out with. If you told me even 10 years ago, these are gonna be your friends. This is gonna be what you do on a
Yeah.
con weekend or whatever, I would have gone, shut the fuck up. You know, but I also find that almost everybody in the business has, like, no matter how big or small they are, has some story of their own of this moment that never would have happened if they weren't part of comics,
Yeah.
that they still just kind of look back and go, wow, did I get to do that?
Well,
So that's my
I,
thing now. Share a surreal story.
I mean, I mean, just through Mark, like meeting Mike Allred, having Mike Allred draw a variant cover for My Bad, getting to hang out with him, be in his home, go to a few this person that like when I discovered him, through Madman and his early work, and then was so excited when he started doing a lot of work for Marvel that to me was sort of like the closest thing to the excitement of like a Jack Kirby or something. Do
Right.
you know that kind of just eye popping, glorious, fantastic, imaginative art to like meet that person and then find out that he's like a really cool guy, a really like just what you would want him to be,
Right.
enthusiastic about comics and pop culture and life and cosplay and all manner of creativity. Like that's like a really cool thing that, you know, I wouldn't have expected to ever happen in my life, as much as I love comics. So yeah,
Yeah. That's exactly the type of thing that I'm.
yeah, so cool.
Yeah. It's just.
Yeah.
And one of mine, Mark, is I sat down and had pizza with you.
That was nice. I enjoyed that. That was a good. That was a good
Well,
day.
it's just because the pizza was good.
You got in my car and
Yeah,
wasn't worried about the fact that I might never bring you back to your hotel and
yeah. I
went and
think
had
once
pizza.
you decide on a creative career, it's like you've pretty much given yourself over to the universe already. It's like you already made the most dangerous decision you're ever going to make in life, so it's all downhill from there.
All right, Mark, something surreal.
Well, for me, it kind of happened very early in my comics writing career. In 2016, I was invited to go to the Miami Book Festival, which I'd always wanted to do and never would have achieved just through actual writing until I got into comics, and then I got invited to go down to the Miami Book Festival and at the authors party. Art Spiegelman was there, and to make it even more kind of surreal, like this was in 2016 in November, and Trump had just been elected president like 3 days before, and like everybody was in shock. Everybody was just sort of like mind blown that this kid was
So,
even
like
possible.
6 days before the Cubs had won the World Series.
Yeah, and Art Spiegelman. I mean, I remember talking to him directly about it, and it was kind of like all anyone wanted to talk about at the time. And he's like, to me, it feels like Berlin, 1933. And that sort of stuck with me, and especially because we were having such a great they had a great party and it was such a great festival that it felt like this might be the last good time anyone ever has.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm certain it won't be. We have good
On that
times
note, no,
ahead.
it wasn't the last good time anybody ever had.
Yeah. We had
It wasn't
four.
even the last good
We had,
time I ever had. But
yeah.
I think
Hey, we had pizza after that,
yeah,
man.
but I think it was surreal to me because it was like fun and
Oh,
part
yeah.
like my career had like I had hit a milestone, and yet you couldn't enjoy any of it.
Right. Oh, I mean, this was before I'd gotten into this whole comics thing, but like the Cubs winning the World Series was a really, really big deal for me for six
Oh yeah,
days.
I can imagine.
6 days.
Yeah.
6 days was how long I got to enjoy the Cubs
Yeah.
winning the World Series.
Uh,
From Wednesday night until Tuesday evening.
Buzzkill.
Yeah. It was a rough Tuesday night.
um, always a pleasure. Stick around for a second afterwards because I got a couple of questions to ask. But for Bryce Ingman, for Mark Russell, this has been 22 panels, and we will see you after the next page.